In our keynote this morning, we're going to get a glimpse into how some companies are reimagining safety training, building immersive training programs using VR and augmented reality. Well, Lisa McGuire is going to be here back on the stage to moderate this discussion, along with Joey Catteroy from Dapphaus. Let's take a look at this short training video from Husky Technologies.
Wow, I'm excited for this keynote and topic. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Leading Edge panel that has started off with a bang. With me here today is Joey Catteroy, CEO of virtual training and game developer Dapphaus in Toronto. And on screen, we'll hear from E2E Ops Value Stream Manager Al Galli at Husky Technologies, Ontario head office. Welcome, Joey, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Joey Catteroy. I am the CEO of Dapphaus, and we are an immersive game development studio based in Toronto. As Lisa said, Lisa asked a question when she was up on the podium about what were you doing 17 years ago. Well, what we were doing is we were starting this company. And I'm very excited to show you some of the product and some of the wares that we've put out. And this is my first Make It Safe conference. I hope to attend many more. I've spent some of my formative years in Burnaby, BC. I haven't been back in 10, 15 years. It's amazing how much it's changed. But as I was saying to Lisa last night, it's supernatural, and I'm really happy to be here. So, thank you.
Welcome, and hopefully the jet lag's not too hard on you. It's a few hours difference, but thank you. Joining us on the big screen are Al Galli from Husky Technologies and Gavin Poole, Director of Learning Technologies at Dapphaus, who has had the opportunity to spend time with Al to discuss key insights from Husky's immersive learning experiences last week.
So Al, thank you so much for having us here at Husky Technologies. It's great to be here. Can, first of all, just tell us a little bit about what the company does here?
Sure. Glad to have you, Gavin. Husky is an injection molding company OEM. We are original equipment manufacturers of injection molding systems in multiple markets in the plastics industry, focused on PET, which is preforms for bottles.
And that's, I know that you guys are a big player in the industry. You've had a lot of success. Can you tell us a little bit about how health and safety is something that you need to be concerned about in rolling out a product such as yours?
So at Husky, health and safety is head and shoulders above everything else that we focus on. Especially my part of the business, I work on the service side, CSM, Customer Success Management. We want to make sure that all of our technicians know, first and foremost, is that they need to go home every day at the end of the day in the same healthy state that they came to work in the morning. So we put machine walkarounds and other steps like that in place so that we make sure that the environment the technician's working in is as safe as possible to, again, in turn ensure that he'll have a successful intervention and he can go home at the end of the day same healthy and safe as he started.
And that's the most important thing.
Joey, can you share some insights into your transition at Dapphaus from game development to immersive learning development in the health and safety space? And why did you choose to start developing in this area?
Yes, I'd love to answer that question. So, you talk about a transition, but actually, quite frankly, we've always been who we are. We've always enjoyed developing games and simulations. But it turns out it's actually industry and you folks and industries that are actually transitioning towards us. I'd probably say 5 to 7 years ago there was sort of a first wave of embrace of the technology. Usually as things go, the first wave is usually crashes, but then there's a second wave. We might be in the third wave right now, but we find that industry now. We have the ear. Many organizations are, willing to talk to us about developing games and simulations for health and safety training and for manufacturing, training on manufacturing and plants, as for example, as Husky does.
Was there anything that kind of was a spark? Was it?
We got a call from an elevator manufacturer, and they asked us to develop the Call of Duty of elevator installation simulations. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Call of Duty, but it's a game that young men play. It's I think it's a war game. We took the same sort of elements, the same sort of what verses, the same sort of video environments that are used in Call of Duty, and actually made them available to elevator and escalator installers and service people. So that's kind of how we started. That was a project we started about 7 years ago. It's still a market now, still being used now. So as I say, we had a lot of luck back then. I think there's something that's very interesting, even though my staff they're gamers, and as am I. There's something very satisfying about doing something above and beyond just entertainment. So we've really embraced the industry embracing us.
How inspiring! I mean, to actually learn using the same application in a way that you come out of that with more information and knowledge. So what are the key elements that make immersive technology, such as virtual reality, an effective tool for health and safety training? Can you talk through maybe some, you mentioned the application in the elevator?
I've got a couple of sound bites that I'll throw out. So training at your fingertips, I just came up with this in the shower this morning. Training at your fingertips, and basically this is what we notice amongst our clients is when they, when we develop these simulations, their staff, their trainees, they can train anytime, anywhere on the planet they can train. And this, we all went through 2.5, 3 years of the pandemic. For many organizations, this is the only way they could actually train. So it might come out in some of the video clips that we see, but Husky itself had three training centers: one in Bolton, Ontario, one in Shanghai, and one in Luxembourg. In the old days, 3 years ago, trainees used to travel, so I think they have thousands of trainees, thousands of service people across the planet. They sell in 120 different countries, so it's literally a cornucopia of trainees right across the planet. But in the old days, they used to fly them to one of the locations. Obviously, that wasn't possible with the pandemic, so this style of training allowed them to certify and assess their trainees across the planet. In fact, so much so that now it's the way that they're doing it.
Sneak intro to what we'll hear from Al here shortly, an overview of Husky Technologies' journey in both designing and implementing an immersive training program for their service technicians, as you mentioned, around the world. Let's listen to Gavin and Al as they talk through and share their experience with us.
An organization your size that's international, that you sell your products worldwide, And so as a result, you have technicians that service these products worldwide. What kinds of training challenges would you have because I know you have quite an extensive training program for all of your trainers and technicians.
So our biggest challenge when it comes to training our field service technicians is to get to each and every one of them, because as you said, we are a global company, our footprint is quite wide. And we're in some developing parts of the world as well as developed. And the challenge is trying to get those people into one common learning environment at any given time. You can do a little bit with team sessions or conferences, but really that doesn't give us the interactivity we need to assess their ability to execute on the safety requirements and the safety guidelines that we give them to follow. So the challenge really is getting to everybody, sharing the knowledge, and assessing whether the knowledge has been effectively delivered.
A really important point. Nothing brings to life more effectively than a real example. So we're going to ask Al now to talk about VR training programs they developed with Dapphaus to train Husky personnel.
That's an interesting idea, that it's not just about sharing the information, it's also about the assessment. Is that why you went with a more interactive product when you work with us on this project?
Correct. We invested in implementing an immersive reality solution for how we do lockout tagout assessments. And we have deployed this as of January of 2023 with a lot of success. We've done multiple assessments, a lot of learning, and we're getting to all the little nooks and crannies where all of our technicians reside. And we're able to say unequivocally that they know and understand how to properly lock out and tag out our systems and give them authorization because of that. So the tool that we've been using, we call it extended reality lockout tagout, has been instrumental. We could not have done this in any other way other than flying technicians onto campuses, and that would have been a very slow process compared to how we're doing it today.
Participant engagement versus effective training retention is an important combination for delivering successful training outcomes. Joey, how do you ensure that an immersive training experience is engaging while also effectively teaching skills on health and safety and principles, as well as applying those skills, practical skills?
Good question, and you might be surprised by the answer, but it's actually the very simple game elements that, I don't know how many of you actually play any sort of video games. I'm going to ask an interactive question very shortly, but things like, within training, things like progress bars, levels, in-game rewards, in-game currencies, perhaps currencies to, perhaps buy more training. These elements that are in games, they're instant feedback, immediate sort of gratification or immediate sort of learning. So it's interesting. It's very simple game elements that actually make this training engaging. In fact, interactive question. Does anybody here play Wordle, or does anybody a Wordle? Hands up if anybody. Oh, okay, I see a few hands. So, it's a nice little 3, 4, 5 minute break for a day, but there are people who are just addicted to it, and there is a reason, and the reason is very simple. It's called the streak. So I don't know if any of you are streakers, but everybody wants to, their streak is how every single day you play, if you succeed, you add 1 to your streak. My streak is 51. There's, some people who are in the hundreds, but even that one small stat that you get from the gameplay just drives people. Drives people to the point of Wordle addiction. So it's that sort of element that plays into it. Interestingly, the easier question to answer is about effectiveness. And one thing that these simulations allow us to do is every motion, everything that happens within a simulation is tracked and recorded. So if there's somewhere within a lesson that we can see people stalling, if we see a large group of people stalling or getting stuck, that could be something wrong with the coursework itself. So it's easier for us to find that and correct that. Our experience is that generally when we design a simulation, we tend to hit the mark very closely, and it maybe requires 1 or 2 iterations, to plug any sort of gaps that we may see in the data. But just by virtue of the fact that there's a lot of data generated by the games, allows us to make sure it is effective.
Well, and you have to demonstrate that you're applying it as you immerse yourself in that character, right? As you've evolved some of your courses around it.
That's correct.
Which is really challenging to do in the real environment. You know, how do you demonstrate some of those skills if you're not there showing and asking those questions with a machine that you can do? Awesome. Well, bringing this concept to life through Husky's decision is shared in this next segment. We'll bring him back on screen. Al talks about the rationale behind starting this immersive training project with Lockout Tagout.
It's been a really exciting project to work on, this XR lockout training. Why did you go with Lotto for the first type of training that you wanted to use this kind of technology for?
It really goes back to your first question about how important is safety in the organization. We want to make sure that our guys create an environment that is safe for them to work in as soon as they arrive on site at a customer event. So making sure that we have control of all the energies, and when needed, we can lock out and make sure that we have zero state energy on the system. That's the most immediate way of making the environment safe. So that's step one. There are procedures and guidelines and other things to follow for working safely on the product, but it starts with creating a zero state energy around the machine when it's appropriate to do so, and lockout tagout is the most direct way to do this. And with the authorization program, we can assure ourselves that our technicians not only understand the theory, but can actively apply the theory in practice. And that's what the tool has allowed us to do.
Joey, in your experience in research, what are the largest advantages of VR, augmented or immersive reality training over the traditional methods?
Safe, sane, and convenient. This is, at least for technicians or trainees, it allows trainees to train in safe environments, train in very perhaps dangerous situations like these. The machines that Al is talking about are some of them are about the size of this room itself, but some of them they're high energy, high pressure, high heat, extremely dangerous machines. But these simulations allow, again, people to train at any time and anywhere. I'll share an anecdote about a simulation we built for Valet. It's actually an actual piece of mining machinery, and this piece has never seen the light of day. It was actually built and manufactured 2 miles below the crust of the planet. The only way to train in the past on this was to actually take somebody down 2.5 miles in the ground and train them. Now, the theory that they don't actually, you don't have to send somebody down. They can do this type of training. They can do the theory, all the controls, pass safety regulation and so on, and certifications. They can all do that virtually.
So at Dapphaus, have you seen those statistics in terms of training efficiency, retention, and application play out with your clients?
Yeah, there's a gentleman, Jeremy Dalton from PwC, who put out a landmark study about 2 years ago, and the numbers related to this type of training are astonishing. But there is one that's emblazoned into my mind, and because it stood out. Now, this one I'm going to tell you, we actually haven't tested ourselves, but in terms of all the numbers, in terms of efficacy, in terms of trainees embracing the technology, in terms of trainers embracing the technology, the numbers are like, they are just shocking. But there's one number in particular that I'd never seen applied to any sort of training. That's 3.75x. 3.75x is the emotional connectedness to the content material. And I think back of any training I've done, and I can't say that I've been really emotionally connected to it. But mind you, when I was training, I had no XR and no VR. So I think that's anecdotally, the feedback we get. Anytime we build a simulation, I can almost guarantee what feedback we'll get, and that is from all levels, from management, from trainers, from trainees. Why weren't we doing this sooner? Why haven't we done this sooner? But I think you will see it'll be much more pervasive as time goes on. So
following the development of such a unique training application, the bottom line value is obviously the implementation. We asked Al to talk about the implementation of this new training technology at Husky Technologies. His story is compelling. Let's hear back from Al.
It's been a really interesting to go from the idea for this and then working with people who use it in the field and working with your staff of trainers who are all had such great input for a project like this. Can you tell me a little bit about the development progress and how it was, sorry, I'll take "we" out of there, how it was rolled out, and did you find any successes with the rollout?
For sure. So we started working with Dapphaus on developing the content for lockout tagout based on what we were doing in a live person-to-person application of the lockout tagout authorization. We captured all the major elements of what it is that we needed to assess. We created an immersive interactive environment for the technician to not just tell us what he would do, but actually show us. So they were able to interact with the product in virtual reality to show how which component gets applied and where and when. How do you check for zero state energy and all of that. So there's a theoretical component where we ask them the theory to make sure they understand the theory, and then there's the interactive component which allows them to show the certified trainer what they do during a lockout tagout event. And from there, we built up the program that we, again, developed and launched in January of this year. And the success so far has been quite beyond my personal expectations. I thought that maybe the younger generation technician, being used to the gaming environments, would adapt to it quickly and see the value. The senior guys may be more slow. It has been accepted universally by young and old technicians as this is the future of training. They felt like they were with the trainer in the training environment. They were interfacing with the machine in a way that to them was mimicking real world. And they had very glowing feedback as to their experience. And we, beyond the young and old threshold, everyone to a person has had a very good experience with the tool. And they feel not just that the tool has added value to their ability to learn and work safely, but it's also realistic in that it taught them things that just a simple meeting or conference or theoretical session would not have done. So it was good to show what they could do as well as learning the content.
That's fantastic. It's great to hear that the onboarding process for using this kind of new technology was so smooth with your students, with your new trainers, and trainers that have more experience. What kind of impact has it had on your trainers' lives and on your trainers' careers? And has there been any impact, as early as it's been so far, has there been any impact on the organization itself?
Right. So the trainers adapted to the product really quickly because they had the content already that they wanted to get out and the assessments they wanted to do. And this gave them another vehicle to do so in an environment where they were not trying to work around other things that were happening in production or in training. It was a dedicated environment for nothing but the lockout tagout assessment, so to them it was ideal to do the assessment with the students. We have a 3-year refresh on lockout tagout. So once you have taken the lockout tagout assessment and you've been authorized to go out there and conduct a lockout tagout, for our own purposes, we've made it that every 3 years you have to do this again. The success of the program has led us to reevaluating why wait 3 years. Wow. If it's so convenient and so much easier now to get to all of our technicians and to have such a thorough authorization done, we want to start doing that now on a yearly basis. We're even looking at using the tool in a way where a trainer would be there optionally, but a technician can enter the environment and follow the online script to actually self-authorize and lockout tagout if they meet certain conditions. So there's a lot of potential. This is the beginning, but it's all trending in the right way in that we're getting more people exposed to safety guidelines and assessing their ability to adhere to them, so that they can feel more confident and we as a business can feel more confident that our guys are properly equipped to do the job they need to do.
Really interesting results, really interesting. Wouldn't think that, all generations of workers would feel as comfortable using this new technology. We know though that the change of this scale is not without challenges or without monetizing the benefits. So next we've invited Al to talk about both in addition to looking into the future of this potential training and growth opportunities with immersive learning.
Can you tell us a little bit, though, with all that experience in your training team, are there any challenges then in delivering training like this because you have more experienced trainers, or is there any trends in the industry that are being providing challenges with having such experienced trainers?
The training team saw this as a way of getting things done in a more effective and efficient way than they have been in the past. So from day one, they were on board. It was just a matter of working out the details and going through the deployment process so that we can get it out to everyone. And as they use it, they learn it. One of the great things about training as a profession is that you become an expert in the topic just due to the fact that you're repeatedly training the topic. So having used this tool now for the better part of a year, they're really becoming experts in how the tool is designed to be used and the impact that it can have. So they're continuing to build more and more into the tool, allowing for some guided interactivity beyond lockout tagout, especially for people that are new to the organization, technicians that are new. They may not have seen all the different elements of what an injection molding system has. So beyond lockout tagout, they're using it as an introduction to the system tool. And here I think is where the growth of this product is going to start, because today lockout tagout, tomorrow other health and safety requirements can be mapped onto that environment, and beyond that, as we release new products and as products change some small thing about how health and safety needs to be done, we can keep up with that by adding modules and amending the base product to include any new developments or any findings that the senior trainers bring to the table as they become more accustomed to it.
That's a pretty impressive list of benefits, and Husky is clearly seeing more opportunity with this type of training.
Yeah, it's as I said at the outset, it's the industry is embracing the technology, and we're embracing the industry. In fact, there is a discipline, and my colleague Gavin actually leads the discipline. And that is, someone, he's actually an educator, that's, his background is in education, but him and his staff, actually what they do is when they go through coursework, when they go through material, they're the ones who actually gamify it and turn it into a game concept. And internally we call that the Chrome analysis, for many, nothing to do with Chrome or nothing to do with, we just call it the Chrome analysis, but that's how do you take rote learning, or how do you take any type of health and safety material and make that something that's engaging and interactive. So I mean our products, as I'm always, I shouldn't say I'm not amazed anymore, because it's always the same feedback that we get about again, why haven't we done more of this? And Al brought up a really interesting question. I remember when we pilot tested this with a group of technicians. There was one gentleman who never touched, I think I'm going to say he was in his mid-50s, but he'd never touched a gaming system, never played a video game, and live during this workshop, they actually certified people. So this is the first time they've ever seen it, and they were actually certifying people while they were, the first right out of the gate. And this gentleman stood up in front of a crowd like this and decided to be the first person, and he got through it, with actually relatively easily. So we do get the question quite often. Okay, well, this does look like it's millennial or slanted towards Gen Y or Gen Z, but actually our experience is quite the opposite. It's actually embraced right across the spectrum, as Al says.
Do they have fun while they're engaging? I mean, because that was brought up. Is it something they look forward to and actually see enjoyment?
Yeah, Just so everybody knows, in preparing for this, I said to Lisa, when I do these things often, and I always forget to mention the one aspect, and that's the fun and the interactive aspect. So, what we find, I'll give you an example. The same workshop that we did, there was, they had 20 resident technicians that were working on this. They had a lunch break. During the lunch break, nobody left. Everybody, believe it or not, just kept playing the lotto simulation. It's like they just wanted to power it on, power it off. Now, had we asked them to do it on the real machine, which they had right there, they probably would have taken their lunch.
Interesting. So as technology continues to evolve, Joy, where do you anticipate the future of immersive training to go? Are you seeing what do you think it'll look like in 5-10 years?
So right now, it is cutting edge, and the business cases are there, the use cases, OpEx and CapEx business cases are there. Again, once a simulation is in place, everybody's like, the aha moment. Oh yes, we should have done that. But I think what we're going to see is this type of training won't be cutting edge. It will be actually the way that many technical and dangerous types of training are actually accomplished as a first level of training. I get another question I get quite often is about, real IRL versus real life versus simulation. And what we always say is, our simulations don't replace real life. Like, somebody still at some point has to go 2 miles in the earth and operate a machine. We can't get away from that. But what we can do is allow that technician to, train and try in a safe and sane environment, before they ever actually get, are put in a dangerous situation or put in harm's way.
So you can kind of emulate what could happen in a simulated application versus, obviously, you don't want to.
That's right. And Lisa, that's a great point. Actually, the environments encourage people to try things and perhaps even make a mistake, like try doing it the wrong way, see what happens. It's, I guess we call it, there's many words in the industry, emotional safety and so on. But I do want to return to something I was talking about last night that I do forget, and I know I mentioned it once, but these, they are engaging, they are fun. And I think, across every level of management, trainer, trainee, everybody's just enthusiastic and really enjoy the actual simulation, which is, when I speak to groups like this, I'm always talking about the business benefits and the efficacy and so on. But actually, our customers are far more, verbose and illustrious than I am being right now. So.
Well, in research, there's been some research that has shared some really impressive statistics on shortening the learning time from traditional methods. So, lots to talk about and hear about in this space. So obviously, Husky's custom-developed training solution would be cost prohibitive for most smaller organizations. I mean, they're what, did you say 8,000 employees they have across?
No, I think six across the 6 or 7 across there. I mean,
so
they have
large. So what does the future look like for more accessible health and safety training solutions for the other 80 to 90% of businesses out there?
So the future is bright, and I'll tell you why. There are industry organizations that are leading the way for their constituents. What we find, so when Husky went through this, I think it's been, not even a year now that this has been in place, and the return on investment is astonishing. But what they're doing is they're going to their vendors now, like some of the panels that go on these machines and some of the hydraulics and so on, and they're going to their and saying, listen, if you want this on our machine, now you need to start developing the same level of training for our technicians, and then they'll take that and drop it down. So there is, hate to use the term, a trickle-down effect that will happen. The technology is getting cheaper. The development tools are getting cheaper. There is, within the next year, there's a free, it's not even a tool, it's a free application that we all use every day. It's our web browsers. They're really elevating the standard of supporting VR applications right now. If anybody wants to hear about browser technologies, there's something now called WebGL, and those are the protocols that we use to create these things. There's a new standard coming, and by the way, it's free. It's going to come in every browser. It's called WebGPU, and what that allows the browser to do is access the GPU, the graphics processing unit, which presently it doesn't. But that will make these experiences far richer and far more realistic. The tools get better and easier to use, so the cost will drop over time.
Yeah, well, I guess the first phone was developed where? From NASA? And look, everyone here has a phone today, right? So we know technology becomes more accessible. And we open Make It Safe with this topic because we wanted to bring a live example of how cutting edge technology is being adapted and delivered and really showing some real exceptional health and safety performance results. But we also have an exciting announcement to share with all of you. This same technology that you've just seen at Husky is now being developed for immersive learning training that can be accessible very soon across Canada, where training is only the beginning of this journey. The organization that you've probably seen as one of our sponsors, Safety Meta World, is a brand new organization inspired to deliver immersive training harmonized across all Canadian regulatory standards in an out of this world experience, providing some worker level training in the very near future, with a formal launch date to access this new immersive world really coming very soon. And you're the very first audience to hear about it. If you're interested in learning more as this development unfolds, please, there'll be a survey that'll be circulated after this conference. And if you check that box, you'll hear more about it as more information becomes available. So Hazard ID and Control will probably be the first worker level course out there that will deliver a unique experience, much like what you've seen, but really applicable to, it will be focused in manufacturing to begin with, but allow for individuals to not only be taught from an education perspective, technical components, but then work through application in a simulated environments.
Welcome to the future of health and safety training. Safety Meta World. Designed by leading subject matter experts, Safety Meta World brings immersive learning to the world of workplace safety. Enter a world of safety and prevention with training on real situations in real time without the risks of the real world. You can engage in an interactive and fun way from anywhere, embracing comprehensive safety training at your own pace, directly from your computer. Harmonized across Canada and beyond to ensure that you are meeting the highest health and safety regulatory standards, integrating psychosocial risks. This training is the first of its kind. Welcome to Safety Meta World.
So I know there's a lot to take in from after lots of information, hearing from Husky and some of our conversation, but really want to stop and pause and hear from you. If you have any questions, we'd like to be able to take a few. With Joey here, he has all the technology behind this work. So I believe we have somebody, there's a mic, and I think Jennifer will go around. So any questions?
The question is, do these types of simulations and technology integrate with learning and management systems that may currently be in place or might be implemented? And the answer is yes. So that the Husky simulation that you saw, as I said, it throws off a lot of data, throws off a lot of information. All that information is actually stored on their LMS, so it's accessible to trainers, it's accessible to the organization. So the answer is a bona fide yes.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions?
What's the sort of ratio when we go to the VR type of situation?
That's a good question. If everybody didn't, I'll just repeat the question. It seems like every time there's a level going beyond the basic content, going to e-learning and perhaps to VR, like what is the multiple in terms of time, like time to bring it or time to ingest it, make it into, I guess, make it into a courseware or coursework. What I could say is this: is that, as I said, earlier on we've developed a practice that's led by my colleague Gavin, and what we do is we take current course material. So the material that we've worked with typically has already been developed. Like it's been, so the lockout tagout training has been around since the actual organization has been around. But to go from cracking open their materials to photogrammetizing their machine and taking in all their CAD/CAM documents, that project that you saw up there was 14 weeks total, from 0 to 60, from beginning to end. 14 weeks from start to be in market. Quite often we do get asked, seeing as we're going in this direction, can we create more content? And the answer is yes. And there's brings up an interesting point about the training journey. There's a virtue, I'm sure it flew by on one of the videos, but one thing this really allows us to lock in on is an actual standard practice of training. So it's not like there's no interpretation. So it's not like reading memory and you might have an interpretation of what you're learning. Since you're actually doing something, what you do and the order of operation that you do it is, and to succeed, that's all built into the simulation. So it enforces, a standard. So Husky has a way they want you to take their machines to zero energy. If you don't follow that methodology, you don't get certified or worse. But it is interesting that we can expand upon current course curriculum because we can actually enforce the actual methodology to complete a certain task. So thanks for asking the question.
I apologize if I missed this earlier in the presentation, but when it comes to actual implementation of these programs, are they done in a classroom setting? Does everyone have their own tablet? Is it take it home and do it, work on your own? Or how are you providing the technology to actually participate in the technology?
That's a great question. I'm glad you're letting me hit all the high notes and points. So, when we go to an organization like Husky, the very first thing we say, okay, what is your technology platform? What is your base? I think I mentioned earlier on about 7 to 10 years ago there was the initial VR rush goggles, all this kind of stuff, and that kind of fell flat. And the reason is ubiquity. There just wasn't enough. Companies aren't going to go out for all those, buy 6,000 different headsets. So what we do is we target a platform. We go into your organization. We say, okay, what's your minimum technology that you have available to you? Certain laptop. All of us have certain laptops, certain powers, but we look at what's the consistent baseline within an organization, and we use that as a standard to build out the simulation. So, if the standard's a bit higher, we can do, a bit more, add a bit more granularity. If it's a bit lower, we can reduce the granularity. But we actually target what works best because organizations like this want to distribute it as far as possible. So we try to find that level of ubiquity in your technology platform. Does that answer your question? Okay, thanks.
Did you experience any culture or organizational challenges when introducing immersive training programs across your diverse plant locations?
Yes, and I know many of us have Android phones or iPhone phones, and if you have Siri on your phone, you can change the language or the tone. I don't know how many tones they have now or how many voices they have on Apple devices now, but we had to do something similar, like some of the NPCs within a game. Let me step back a second. Health and safety and game development and technology development are very similar in that they all have a lot of acronyms. So NPC is what a non-player character, so it would be as you're playing a simulation, it could be a character who is actually your teacher. Thank you. Who is actually your teacher, or it could be the teacher is actually machine-driven or AI-driven, perhaps. For the NPCs, we actually had to offer NPCs that are male, female, in terms of voices, in terms of tone and manner. We had to offer male and female. In terms of, this much is easier for us to do, to change the race of characters that are in the game. But that is correct. We did have to be very sensitive to those, and actually driven by the companies themselves.
Right. Is it fairly easy to translate then, in terms of making it all look seamless? I know.
A lot of the what's called localization. So localization is a technical term, but it means the ability to perhaps put out a French Canadian and English Canadian version. A lot of the technology to do that actually preceded or predated the sort of gaming industry.
Right.
In fact, the gaming industry was probably the last group of technologists to actually use it. But a lot of that localization now is built into the platforms, and it's very easy for us to switch in languages. The characters are part of the game itself, so that's I'm not saying it's difficult. Obviously, it's time based, but once you have one character, we loosely, and this is just the terminology we use in the industry. It's easy to skin it. That's we can skin it however we want. We can clothe it however we want. But that's just that's very minimal time to do that. So
sometimes though translation isn't direct. So does it take into that account of because you'd have to be able to go through just to make sure has the same context. You know what I mean? Because it's not always a direct translation. Is that a process, or would that be part of the review in doing a course and then translating it into a different language?
Yeah, from our participation. There's two things. So, for example, this simulation you're seeing is being converted to Mandarin. So the way that the Mandarin text is rendered, is quite different than perhaps the English or French. But the rendering part, is facile for us. The more difficult challenge is, and by the way, we don't take on. We can take on the challenge, but we don't. But for example, Husky's machines, Husky's governance. So. We'll say to them, hey, if you want it in Mandarin, you're doing the translation, because we don't understand the exact context of what you're trying to. So it is a matter of finding, within the organization, and they have. An organization like Husky has translators for
every faculty. Yeah. Excellent. Any other last questions? I know there's maybe 1 minute. Oh, yes.
You could just have a smaller module that a supervisor could have on a tablet and go out and say, show me how to lift properly, show me how to lock this out, and do audits just on the floor at a supervisor level.
Yes, so just the question is it, can what we call applets, or we call them modulets, actually be developed that are maybe smaller simulations on point, like at a particular, for example, at a particular point on a machine that perhaps somebody can review on a laptop or a mobile, a pad or a mobile device. And first, I must point out that this question is not a plant. This is a real question. So the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, these organizations are ripping apart our technology. Let's say, listen, on that particular machine, it's called the H120 injection molding machine. we're exactly doing that. Anybody can scan a part of the machine and it shows them sort of exactly how to do it. Now, it doesn't show the order of operation. Obviously, you're just looking at a certain piece of machine, but they're breaking up the actual simulation and, you know, actually showing, oh, you know, if somebody forgets, you know, how to do it, maybe they haven't done it for a while, they can actually, you know, focus on a piece of the machine and it actually will show them on a mobile device, you know, how to actually articulate that. So, yes. You know, as Lisa mentioned, there's a rollout of Safety Meta World, and I really do want to come back to that. I'm not sure if your next Make It Safe conference sort of aligns with that, but when it is launched, I will be at the conference and just to get some feedback from you all. So I really do look forward to seeing you all. As you know, as I said to Lisa yesterday, I really do think this place is supernatural. I'm really happy to be here.
No, I think that's a great segue. I mean, certainly our Make It Safe Online, the end of the month, you'll see it and see a little bit more about what it is and what's coming very soon in the next, well, certainly before the end of the year, but really incorporating things like psychosocial risks within the environment and how do you learn how to identify those particular types of hazards and then provide some opportunity for them to select controls. So it is going to be a great learning for all of us, and hopefully we'll all be along the way to ask more questions then.